Hello and welcome. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. Procyon, one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. President Sean Rabinowitz, proud supporter of our podcast network and everything we do. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump and UConn legendary men's basketball player Jake Voskuhl. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large or small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return on your taxes. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. If you've suffered any type of personal injury, slip and fall, a car accident, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry one night and decided to stab you, the Finch Firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all across the state of Connecticut. He will go to war to get every dollar you deserve in compensation. You just have to remember, in a pinch, call Finch or go to his website, thefinchfirm.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. He trains boys and girls of all ages, all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week, 6 a.m. You want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he trains boys and girls in the sport of their choice from the ground up, helps them reach their full potential, be the best they can possibly be. Andre has sent boys and girls to college on scholarship for all different types of sports. To work with the best, he has a 5,000 square foot state-of-the-art facility in Hartford, Connecticut. Go to www.dynamichumanperformance.com. All right, and here we are for Conversations with Cully and Conlon. I'm your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. With me, as always, UConn legend and Western Connecticut State University head coach, Maria Conlon.
Morning, sir.
You look like you're feeling much better.
Yeah, I took my allergy meds a little earlier today, but these allergies are kicking my butt.
I know it's bad this time of year. I wanted to ask you, Sarah Strong was named USWA Ann Myers Drysdale National Player of the Year. Is that just National Player of the Year with just like a different sponsor? Or is that a different award?
No, it's different award.
Oh, okay. All right. That's what I was curious about.
Yeah.
She has been phenomenal this year. 18 points, 7 rebounds, and I didn't know she had 117 steals, and it ranks second in program history for a single season. And she ranks 13th nationally in field goal percentage. I thought she came onto the scene last year hot, like a lightning bolt, and she was really a spark and got the team going. You would say by now that she has obviously passed AZ Fudd in talent-wise, right? Being a better player, or do you think it's 1 and 1A?
No, I think AZ is a far superior three-point shooter than her.
Right.
I think when you look at Sarah, she does a little bit of everything. She's a 3-level scorer. She can guard inside. She can guard outside. She can score on the post. She can score mid-range. She can score on the perimeter. I just think she brings more overall. If you're looking at an overall complete basketball player, I think the nod goes to Sarah. It's not a hit on AZ, but
no,
AZ will probably go down as one of the best shooters to ever play the game at this pace. So, They both bring something a little team, no matter who it is. But I think Sarah, I said it last year that I thought Sarah Strong was the best player in the country. And, obviously this year she's proved it only as a sophomore.
And she came in, I was just looking at ESPN's rankings. She was the number ranked player in the tournament. The second ranked player was Michaela Blakes from Vanderbilt. 27 points a game, 4.6 assists. What do you know about her? They say that she's the top scorer in the country.
She's really good. I mean, she's only a sophomore too.
Yeah.
She scores, way more from the perimeter. I think she's definitely shiftier, a little bit quicker than Sarah, but like you can't even really compare the two. They're two totally different types of players, but
Right.
Michaela Blakes is really, really good. And like I said, as only a sophomore, I think her ceiling is going to get even higher and higher. So, hopefully we'll see the two of them go up against each other in the Elite Eight, which I think will be a really fun matchup.
And then 3 was Hidalgo from Notre Dame. She's also averaging 25 points a game. AZ was 4th, and Madison Booker from Texas was 5th. You think that's a pretty legit top 5 right there? And Betts was 6th.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at the top players in the country, I mean, I think those 6 players obviously have to be in the conversation. Hidalgo's an interesting one because Notre Dame didn't have like the best year all around, but they played great in the ACC tournament and they've played great so far in the NCAA tournament. And she's a scorer. I mean, we've known that about Hidalgo for a couple of years now, but I think my favorite part of her game is her ability to play defense. I mean, she's averaging the last like 6 games, she's averaging like eight steals a game, which is just crazy. So, yeah, I think that's I might move and shift some people around in that top 6, but I would still have those 6 in my top 6.
So UConn going to the Sweet 16, I mean, they have decimated everyone this year. I mean, everyone they've walked up against. I don't think has anyone even been within 10 points of them. Is this
Michigan
team
early on? That was it.
Michigan early on, right? Is this team really that special and could go down as one of the best in history? And I know that you have played on several of them yourself. Do you think women's basketball overall, it's because there's a lot more parity, like you said, than there kind of had been in the past, where, the players are spread out more than they used to be? And like you said, there's more kids that want to go and play you or beat UConn than play with them. But UConn this year has just rolled and steamrolled everyone other than that one Michigan game. Do you think that they're that much better than the field, or do you think they'll get challenged in the Final Four, Elite Eight?
No, I think, listen, I think they'll get challenged as they should. Are they the best team UConn's ever had? I don't think so. But I do think defensively they're up there. If not the best, they're definitely up there. I think the way that they've played defense this year has been crazy. They've always been a strong offensive program, with multiple kids that can score in a bunch of different ways every single night. But I think what's really separated them and created this huge disparity in the final scores has been the defensive end.
Yeah, I do as well. And KK Arnold gets a lot of that started. And they have such a deep bench. There's so much. There's no weaknesses on this team, really. Nothing on the roster, nothing on the coaching staff. What would you say their true identity has been all season and going into this tournament and throughout this tournament? And, is it going to hold up against some of these elite teams?
Is it going to hold up? Absolutely. I think that their identity this year, I mean, listen, they look like a team that's just really having fun together.
They do.
Which is awesome to see and is not talked about enough because it's really hard to get a lot of really good players to
Yes.
enjoy and maybe give up some of their own shine for others. But that's kind of been the identity of UConn for years, right? Is, you come there to win a national championship. You might become player of the year, you might be this, you might be that, but you go there to win. And I always think that the identity at UConn is that the coaching staff and the players hold themselves to a higher standard than any other program out there, just in the way they approach practice, games, the way they communicate with the media. Um, it's just another level of professionalism and preparation that I don't think anyone replicates as good as they do.
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely shown through. Is there a certain player that you can see that has the highest March Madness volatility? One who could swing a game with a game breaker or a dud and just not show up. And why may that be?
I think if you're looking offensively, which is really not an issue with UConn because they got people off the bench that can come in. Ashlyn Shade for me has been a little volatile offensively this year.
Yeah.
For me, I think she's too quick of a trigger sometimes. That's just me personally. But I think that's also what makes her really tough because she's the capability of scoring a lot of points sometimes. So I think offensively, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some duds with her. I also wouldn't be surprised if we didn't. You got Heckle coming off the bench. You got Blanca. So even if there is a dud there, you got some people who can come in and replace that dud. So that's a positive thing. Defensively, really the only question mark for me would be if we get into a national championship game with Betts, does Williams fare well with Betts? Does El Afi have to play more minutes and be a little bit more physical with her? I don't think they've seen another big like that this year who can play at that level. It just wasn't on the schedule. I'm not saying that they can't, but I think that'll be a different mix-up. Outside of that, I mean, listen, I think as a team, you got to be prepared for what if AZ has a really off night.
Right.
Right. Because you're relying a lot of the scoring load on her and Sarah. But like I said, she has an off night. Maybe Blanca comes in and hits 3 or 4 threes. So, they have contingencies upon contingencies there, which, not a lot of programs can say. You have, you play Vanderbilt and Michaela Blakes has a really, really off night.
Where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, not that they don't have other kids that can step up, but the volume that she provides and how much they rely on her from an offensive perspective, they don't have anybody else on the roster like that, where, UConn kind of does. So, I think staying out of foul trouble, I think, just continuing to apply the pressure defensively will be what carries them.
Which region do you see for the women as being the toughest or being the quote unquote death bracket out of all of them?
I think the one UConn's in.
That's what I thought too.
I mean, honestly,
I think they're in the toughest one.
You got Vanderbilt, who's a 2 seed. They won their first 20 games of the season.
Yeah.
I feel like they're probably the first or second best 2 seed in the tournament, maybe outside of LSU. Who also has a 2 seed. That bracket's tough too, but I still think, you got Notre Dame as a 6 seed in this bracket. You got some teams that can do some stuff. So I think that's one of the harder ones, which is ironic because it should have been the easiest.
Yeah.
But just the way that some of the ranking worked out, that's what I see.
Do you think the NCAA has finally kind of fixed some of the scheduling issues it's had with the tournament? I mean, it's created some disparities, or I mean, do you think it's the same old story? I mean, it seems like they focus all their energy in trying to get the men's tournament right, and the women come second, and it seems like they don't always put people in the right places and make travel difficult.
I mean, no, I mean, I think at this point like this is what you're used to at this time of the season,
Yeah. This is what you gear up for in March.
Yes.
I agree with that. Okay. And I mean, do neutral site regionals actually help parity, or do you think they just hurt the attendance and the atmosphere like we've
Um,
seen?
I go back and forth with this. I mean, I think it's nice for a lot of programs out there that the regional, I mean, you got, instead of having 4 teams at a regional, you have 8. So hopefully attendance is higher just because you have 8 programs that are vying in that one site. So I think that's a positive. I mean, typically in the past for a regional, if it wasn't the way that they do it now, you might face UConn in Bridgeport or Hartford as a regional,
Yeah.
which obviously is a major advantage. I don't think it hurts UConn to be at a neutral site, but I do think it helps other teams to be at a neutral site with them.
Yes. That makes sense.
So,
All right. We'll be right back. Down south, we have Julius Williams, Jordan Harris, and the rest of the team of the Trench Mob. They train offensive and defensive linemen. They compete in 5v5 tournaments and college showcase camps all across the country. They have sent kids to schools like Florida, Florida State, Miami, Clemson, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, just to name a few. They have sent the highest percentage of kids who work with them to Division I schools on scholarship. To work with the best, go to trenchmobfootball.com. Ned Von Young runs the Fresh Fold Laundry Company in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, a high-end laundry service. You book online, put your laundry out in a clear plastic bag. They pick it up, wash, dry, and fold it for you in 48 hours. They also offer an expedited service if you need that as well. They have an online subscription model, weekly or bi-weekly, where you can get your laundry done that way. They offer deals for college students. So if you want your laundry done, you can do it in your own dorm. They have a pickup and now a delivery service. So you can have your laundry done without leaving the comfort of your own home or dorm room. To sign up, go to their website, my-freshfold.com. All right. Maria, what coach would you say is under the most pressure to make a deep run, or that will help to keep their job or get them a new contract or even silence critics to an extent?
honestly,
I didn't see anyone really either.
yeah, I don't. Women's basketball is a little different than men's. And I
know
think,
the Rutgers coach got fired. That was the only one I saw.
yeah, I mean, that didn't surprise me. Yeah, I think, not that I think the UCLA coach is in the hot seat at all, but I think there is a little bit of pressure for them to at least get to the Final Four, maybe a national championship game, just because of how highly touted they've been the last couple of years, and they've kind of come up short. Um, the Texas coach, I don't feel that way about. I don't feel that way about LSU. Certainly not Dawn Staley at South Carolina.
No.
Certainly not Shea at Vandy. Certainly not Gino. I think Niele Ivy's done a decent job at Notre Dame to maintain that, even with some injuries and transfers over the last couple of years. So, I don't really see any glaring ones. Now, could there be some and be some changes at the end of the season? Absolutely. But I don't think so. I mean, you look at the 16 teams that are left. I think all 16 coaches have done a really, really great job, both historically and this year. So, I think UConn makes it a little easy sometimes to keep your job, because there's always this thought of like, well, they're all the way up here. We're trying to get there, but we're not there yet, So, I think sometimes there's unrealistic expectations of what can happen and how long it takes to build something. It's not easy to build,
No.
Everybody
No.
looks at Dawn Staley's success now, but her first couple of years at South Carolina, they were awful. So I think you got some coaches out there that are doing some really great things early on in their career. I think you got coaches that have been there running a great program for years and maybe just haven't gotten over the hump. I don't think that their job security is in question, but just in terms of where you want to be and where you want your program to go, I think there's always pressure.
What have you thought about the scheduling of when they play their games? Because they kind of play at the same time as the men, but on the same days or whatever, but at different times. Do you think that works out well for them?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's got to be some overlap. Like, there's just not enough days and ways to
Yeah,
schedule that
to
out.
get it done.
I mean, obviously the guys play tonight.
Right.
Tomorrow the girls' games start in mid afternoon, so you'll
Yeah.
be able to watch a couple of girls' games before the boys' games start tomorrow night. Same thing on Saturday and Sunday. So no, I don't think so. And I think if you watch sports, like there's definitely overlap of people who watch men's college basketball and women's college basketball. But I also think you have a really, really good base of people that just watch women's basketball that will still just continue to watch all of those games. So I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, they're very, very loyal. And the championship game for the women is on the Tuesday following the men, correct?
Is it a Tuesday? I thought didn't they move it back to Sunday? I can't even remember.
Okay. I
You
didn't
could
know
be
if they
right.
did or
I'm
not.
not sure. Let me
I didn't
see.
know if they were after or not. I was just double checking. I
Championship
was asked that.
2026 is so it's the 2nd to the 5th. So yeah, what's the 5th? A Monday? Or is that a Sunday?
Yeah. The fifth would be Sunday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the championship
Second
game would be on
Thursday.
Sunday. Yeah,
Okay,
so
so
it's Friday, Sunday, which I think is, I'm always torn with that. I mean, it's on Easter Sunday this year, which will be kind of weird, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah,
But when I played, we always played on a Sunday. So, I always question, like, why would you not just do the national championship on Saturday night for the boys, Sunday night for the girls? But
yeah.
what are you gonna do?
So the WNBA finally ended their contract dispute and got a CBA agreement done. Do you think that the lockout ending actually solved the core issues the players were fighting for? Or do you think the league kind of just patched up some of the holes?
No, I think, we talked about this last week. I think that they did a good job of meeting in the middle, where they didn't have to give up everything. As we stated, it wasn't necessarily the salary increases, it was the revenue
The
share
revenue, yeah,
piece. So I think they met somewhere well in the middle.
yeah. And what did you think? I mean, because people were concerned there's going to be a free agent frenzy because they don't have a lot of time to do it. And there's so many free agents. Do you see any specific teams benefiting the most from this? Because, I mean, the salary cap changed, the salary structure changed, and I think there's like a handful of players that are actually under contract.
I mean, I think it definitely, listen, it definitely helps the rookies,
Yes.
right, that are coming in because, your Paige, your AZ Fudd coming out this year as a senior, instead of making 66,000, you're making 300K. So yeah, obviously, I think there's a huge belt benefit. Now that, you know, the minimum portion of it, I think helps everybody.
Yes.
Obviously, the maximum is way higher than it was before too. So from a pure contract perspective, yes, absolutely. There's also something written in there where, they're going to be back paying anyone who played in the WNBA before in a lump sum for their time played. So I think that was a really positive thing too.
Oh, that is great they did that.
Yeah. So I think it's based on like the years you played, or there's some formula. But no, I think all in all, it seems like I said, that they met somewhere in the middle. They didn't give up too much on the revenue portion of it. It is going to be off net revenue and not gross. So, I think all that stuff makes total sense.
And I mean, what do you think the league can do to immediately capitalize on the momentum of the lockout ending? Should they immediately get marketing out and promoting the draft, the start of free agency, the
Yeah, I
expansion
think they've
teams?
already done some of that. I mean, this is always a funky time of year, anyways, because uh, people are focused on March Madness right now. I'm not
Yeah.
saying nobody cares about the WNBA draft, but that's after the Final Four. So I think we'll start seeing a lot more of that stuff within the next 2 weeks. But, I think that they'll be perfectly positioned to be able to get enough marketing and stuff out there in time.
Kathy, the commissioner, you think she keeps her job?
I mean, yeah, I guess because
She got through it.
yeah, I mean, they got through it. I'm not sure that. I mean, there's been a lot throughout this whole process of players
Yes,
coming forward on her, and just the way she's handled everything. So that might, obviously they might take a look at that, but I mean, she at the end of the day, she did get it done,
she did. She did.
along with the players. The players.
Yes. No, the players, the last few days, I mean, they negotiated day in and day out, almost 24 hours a day. So I give them a ton of credit for doing that. All right, one more, and we will finish up. Finally, we have James Whitfield of Luther James Insurance. For the last 3 years, James has dedicated himself to the art of financial services. He specializes in life insurance and insurance policies. He will save you money, make you a boatload of money, and do so tax free. He also specializes in retirement planning because we know the stress that goes into thinking about retirement. How much am I going to need? For how long? Do we have enough? Because fear of the unknown is real. To contact James, go to www.lutherjamesinsurance.com. All right. So, what women's games in the tournament are you looking forward to most watching over the weekend?
On the girls' side,
Yeah.
I mean, definitely the ND Vanderbilt game for the Sweet 16, and then assuming they win that game, Vandy versus UConn. I think the LSU potential LSU Michigan matchup on the other side, or actually that is the game, right? Isn't it LSU versus Michigan? I think that's going to be a good one. I'll have to pull up my thing here, but yeah, I think there's gonna be a lot of good games this weekend on both the men's side and the women's side. Jam packed. I think we got a lot of really really good teams still in the mix. Um,
It's Louisville, Michigan, I believe.
yeah, that's going to be a really good game, and I think
And Duke LSU. Duke LSU will be a good game.
yeah. So yeah, I mean Duke LSU will be that's going to be a really really good game, and then it would be potentially LSU versus who Michigan or
Yes. It would be Michigan or Texas, I believe.
No, that's
Or
a different. That's a different bracket, actually. Hold on. So you got Regional Three, Louisville, Michigan,
and then Texas, Kentucky.
Texas, Kentucky. So a Louisville, Texas game or a Michigan, Texas game would be a really good game. I think the Oklahoma, South Carolina game is going to surprise people. Oklahoma's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not too concerned about the Virginia TCU game. Yeah, the Duke. I would say for Friday, Notre Dame, Vanderbilt, Duke, LSU are the two that I'm really looking forward to watching. And I think on Saturday, Kentucky, Texas, Louisville, Michigan are the two that I'm excited to watch there.
Yeah, South Carolina is a 17.5 point favorite. That seems like a lot.
It does.
So next week at this time, you think both the men and the women are still alive in the tournament?
Whew. No.
No. You
No.
think Michigan State or Duke will knock UConn out?
Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
hope they don't, but I think
hope they don't either. I hope they don't either.
Yeah.
But as we said, they just have to get a few things rolling, and solo ball to hit a few shots, and I think they'll have a shot. When they're at their best, I don't think anything can beat them. I don't think anyone can beat them. But they're not at their best, and if like we said, there's not that one go-to guy as a scorer that they have. They have, like you said, they have everyone who can score, but they don't have that one go-to person that in the final shot of the game that's going to take it. I mean, Carabin probably will, but they don't have that. But hopefully we get to see both teams alive next week. We'll see what happens. It's going to be exciting for the women for sure. And yeah, it's crazy because right after the tournament, then the WNBA draft comes. So we'll get right into that. But
Yep.
we hope you feel better. And how is your kid playing? Is she still playing?
Yeah, she started AAU the other day. So,
Oh, she went right
yeah,
into it.
yeah. So she's got her first AAU tournament this weekend.
All right. Well, UConn legend, Western Connecticut State University head coach Maria Conlon. I'm Steve Cully, best podcast host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life.